Hi, I'm Dan and I teach Philosophy, Ethics and Religion here at HNC. Today I just want to give you a short run through as to what the course is, what topics we teach and what experiences you might be exposed to whilst you're a student here at HNC. So, Philosophy, Ethics and Religion. It's a linear A-level, which means it is over the span of 2 years and you will take your exams at the end of that 2-year block. The exams are all 2 hours long and you will get a paper on each element of the course. So there'll be a paper on Buddhism, which is the religious component, a 2-hour paper on philosophy and a final paper on ethics. Now, this is a slightly different course to religious studies as you would study it at high school. It is far more philosophical, it is far more complex, as is to be expected for a level 3 qualification. The depth is quite intense and the amount of content is very heavy, but this is because it is a traditional A-level subject, the likes of which Russell Group universities like to see on a UCAS application. It also has many applications in and of itself. For example, if you are thinking of studying medicine, this is a good A-level to take alongside your sciences, having that ethical component. It's also good for going into social care, chaplaincy, or even law, as it tandems very well, again, with that ethical component. So I'm just going to give you a breakdown of each element of the course and see what you think about this subject. So one of the first things we study is that of philosophy. Philosophy is one of those words that we all know, but all find quite tricky to actually define. Essentially, philosophy is looking not at how we think, but maybe why we think. We are looking at questions to which there is no set answer, which, when you're studying it as a student, is both a blessing and a curse. Your exams are open to interpretation, the ideas are yours alone, but yet you have still got to back that with some form of academic evidence. For example, the design argument and the cosmological argument. Both of those are asking how the universe and the world itself came to be. Was this through a religious theory such as Paley's teleological argument, where God created everything in mature state? Or has evolution defeated that argument? Was it God that created the universe at the beginning of time? Or are we going to accept a more science-based theory such as that posited by Hubble and Hawking with the Big Bang theory, which in itself does not provide any answers? After all, what started the Big Bang? Science cannot tell us that, at the moment at least. We also go into the idea of God itself. What is God? How do we know God exists? How do we know God does not exist? These are all questions to which nobody has a definitive answer, though many academics will try to persuade you that they do. But it isn't just about religion. We also look at the philosophy of language. How do we know what we mean when we use certain words? How is it that we understand each other? For example, Wittgenstein claims that when we speak, all we are attempting to do is produce pictures in other people's minds. But those pictures are dependent upon our understanding of language compared to somebody else's. How do we know that we mean the same thing? Alongside that, we have more ethical philosophies such as free will and determinism. Is the world and the universe completely determined? Do you have no choice? And if so, does morality have any purpose? Does punishment of the guilty hold any value? Or do we live in a free will universe whereby every choice has consequences and therefore we live in a more chaotic and less ordered universe? Physics would argue for a more deterministic outlook, that we are all on a train track, if you like, to some unknown final destination. So alongside philosophy, we also study ethics. Ethics is the idea of what good and bad is, what right and wrong is, and how we come to those conclusions. In fact, we even look at whether there is such a thing as good and bad, or is it just a tool that we use in society to regulate behaviour? After all, if humans had no concept of good and bad, we would very soon be plunged into anarchy. So a number of theories that we look at here, some religious, some not. Situation ethics and natural moral law, divine command theory, all very much religious, in fact Christian-based ethical theories. But ethics is not the sole province of religion. For instance, virtue ethics of Aristotle, one of the great Greek philosophers, ethical egoism, such as Max Stirner and Ayn Rand, who is often termed the mother of modern capitalism. These are a-religious ethical theories and do not involve any element or idea of God or faith. And utilitarianism, the most common form of ethical decision making, whereby we just look at what produces the most happiness and the least amount of pain in any given situation. Ethics is one of the trickier aspects of the course, and we all have wide and varied ideas on what right and wrong is. And we will have to tackle some really meaty topics when we're discussing this, such as euthanasia, abortion, nuclear deterrence, as well as other more relevant and modern ideas that we might find in the news in any given week. Ethics is a very relevant topic to the modern world, and therefore we can apply it to the most current of situations. And our final topic that we study on the course is, of course, our religious element, and we study Buddhism. This is for a number of reasons. Firstly, it is my speciality. I am educated up to master's degree level in Buddhism as a singular religion. On top of that, it's also a good religion in terms of prior knowledge. By this, I mean most students have none. This means we are all starting from the same level playing field. If you were to study Christianity or Islam, which is quite often studied at school, as I'm sure you're aware, then we would find that some students have more knowledge than others, and that creates an imbalance. Buddhism, we all start at the bare minimum. You are not required to know anything about this religion whatsoever. We start at the very fundamental basics. So, that would be the foundations of the religion, the story of the Buddha, how he came to be, what a Buddha means, and whether this is even a religion in the traditional sense, or actually more of a philosophy and a way of life. But then we very quickly ramp things up, and we start looking at things such as Buddhist ethics. How do they gauge what is right and wrong? To what standard do they hold their morality, and why? Meditation. Now, we do practice meditation. We do an all-day workshop once a year with Year 12s where I will guide you and teach you in how to meditate. As well as that, we do offer a meditation enrichment to which I run, which lasts for 10 weeks throughout the academic year. Buddhism and modern society. How does Buddhism fit in with British society, for example? Is it a feminist religion? Can we have secular versions of Buddhism? How closely is it aligned with scientific thought? For example, Buddhism was really the pioneers in terms of modern psychology, with Tibetan Buddhists, for instance, studying the human mind for the last 2,000 years. It's often a bit of a shock to realise that what we've been studying for 200, other cultures have been studying for millennia. We also look at Buddhist philosophy. The idea is, for instance, that we have no soul, that we are just a collection of sense data to which we interpret and produce something that we call a self or an I. To what extent might that be true? The idea is that nothing is independently existing. Everything needs everything else. For example, a flower needs the rain and a cloud. It needs the soil and the earth. It needs a gardener to tend it and the gardener's conscience in order to do that. Take any of those elements out of the flower and the flower cannot be. This is called shunyata in Buddhism, and it is one of the more complicated ideas that we will study in Year 13. And of course, we will look at variations in Buddhist belief. Like all religions, Buddhism is diverse, and depending upon whereabouts in the world Buddhism finds itself, it will adapt to the culture and the laws of that society. So we will look at British Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, and Japanese Buddhism in order to really explore the wide variations in practice. There are also other opportunities on philosophy, ethics, and religion. We do like to make sure that you are exposed to various cultural events in order to increase your cultural capital and make you a more rounded student. So, for example, we have the aforementioned meditation enrichment. We have a London trip whereby we go to a genuine and authentic Theravadan Buddhist temple in Wimbledon, as well as going to the Victoria and Albert Museum to explore Buddhism more in depth and hopefully catch a philosophy debate or lecture at the London King's College. We also, on a slightly less academic note, have a Psychic Sally evening where we go and see a psychic in action, although only once as one of our students being called out. We also practice our interfaith awareness, where we enjoy a cross-college event celebrating the diverse religions present within the student community. I urge my students, as part of the course, to engage and discuss their beliefs, or lack of, with students from the wider cohort. So, that's philosophy, ethics, and religion in a nutshell. If you've got any questions, there is more information on the website. Thank you for watching.